For this episode, we got Animex 1200 special reprint. This is number 12. This is called, translates to like Jungle King Tarchan, something like that. So let's get this on the scanner. Set the OB aside. And first thing we're going to want is the cover. You know, you can get covers out of here pretty easily by kind of bending the frame a little bit for the jewel case. You can just take it right out. And just gonna flatten that out a little bit, not too hard. Let's see, make sure there's no dust on here. I get that cleaned off. Okay. Then of course I don't use the actual lid because that doesn't push it down enough. Just put that on there and use my weights. All right, let's get this guy going. All right, let's look at this cover here. Open this with Affinity. First thing, rotate it, and we'll bring it in a little bit on the cropping. I leave the order up there just a little bit because sometimes when you descreen it, it'll get a little fuzzy up here. So that lets you see the where you can crop it down to get all the fuzzy area out. All right, so go into filters, do the Sattva. That looks pretty good. Can go over here. It's kind of in the middle. Right, if we zoom out, you can see where it's at. Oh yeah. So this plugin, it uses the original version of the image that's imported and not the current modified version. So that's why for the plugin, it's still rotated. So we'll hit OK, and then we'll wait for that to process. Okay, so it's done now. Now I can do the final cropping. You can see this image is not totally straight here. See now, got a pretty big gap there, and then nothing there. We'll rotate it just a little. Might zoom out, would probably help. Okay. See, let's grab it here in the middle. All right, apply. So we got just a tiny bit of whiteness there. Might be easier just to bring in the pan or the crop just a little bit more. See if that did it. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now here, we've got a nice solid color. See, there's still a little bit of discoloration because of the halftones that were there originally. See if we can clean that up. Do the flood select. Well, first, before we edit too much on this, you can add a levels by clicking on here, or I have predefined ones. But if we go here to levels, that's mostly to clean up the blacks, you know, along here, make sure they're not like a gray color. All right. And then I'll collapse that down so it doesn't mess with our later colors. All right. And flood select. Let's see. Oh, okay. I did pretty good. And then we'll click add. All right. So that one is no good. Subtract. I'm just gonna raise the size of this. See if snap to edge works. Nope. Yeah, I think that's too close of a color there. So we'll just do it freehand. All right, let's look here real quick. Okay, and then what we're going to do is shrink this selection. Probably have to bring it in more than normal. Try 15. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Now the thing to watch for is here, when you shrink from all the edges like that, it brings it in even from the ends. So we'll go to back and we'll add, and just put that back on there. Okay, so now I'm gonna sample that color, use the color picker, change the area. I usually do 65 by 65. So that changed it to this skin tone. Then add a layer, fill the paint bucket, and drop that in. All right, and then you see you got this hard edge here. So I'm gonna put a Gaussian blur on it. Okay, and then having it really hard like this, like you can still see that. So having it just a hard color is too much. I'm going to drop the opacity on it just a little bit. And what this does is it takes the edge off, but it still looks natural. So I set the opacity of that layer to 56%. So now you got a nice, more solid color, but when you get close to the details, it's very hard to see. And we're going to shrink this by 50%. This is at 1200 DPI right now, so we'll shrink it down to 600 DPI. And this kind of stuff right here, like along the boundary layer, that'll go away. But you can see how it definitely cleans it up really well. All right. We could do something similar here with this pink. Add. That one's pretty small. That'll probably get worked away when we do the shrink. Okay, and then we'll go to select and shrink. Normally like 5 is pretty good. Do the color picker, get a sample, and then again put a layer, and then fill it in. Okay, so I deselected. Just do a Gaussian, probably like a 1 is good. All right, that I don't think we need to do the opacity. We can leave it like that. Okay. With this white here, jeez. Clean up. I'm just gonna select the background pixel, and unlock that. Double click on that unlock symbol. See, there was that little padlock. So you can either double click it or you can switch it here. Alt will set the sample area and just go over that real quick. Okay. I got rid of the big offenders. Let's see. Okay. We'll shrink it down. Do 4 on this one. Yeah, all this distortion is because of the doing a remote login, so it doesn't look like that in real life. Sample. Okay. Just put a little bit of a blur on that so it doesn't get over the letters too much. All right, so clean that up pretty good. Okay, and then, so I think that looks pretty good. Just check these borders down here real quick. And let's grab that little guy right there. Background. There we go. So here, so we got something right up here. This white area. Bring it down just a little bit. And we still got that one little mark there. Right there. So that's more manageable. Let's cover him up. Cover that guy. Okay, I think we're done here. Resize. We're going to change the DPI to 600. You see when I tabbed it out, it halved the X and the Y. Resize. There we go. Let's export that as a PNG. Okay. And then this is the front page of the booklet. All right, now we got that. Now we can, oh, wrong one. Now we can crop it down. We can get just the cover out of this. Okay, so our minimum number is, or the maximum we can be at 2803. That's the height. So I'm going to kind of rough it in. What you want to do is drag it in, get it roughly there, and then type the number. Okay, and it'll kind of center it where it was. Apply. And then normally what I do is I scale it down to 2000. We'll export that as a PNG so that there's a nice high resolution cover image. You know, actually I don't really like this line right here. I'm gonna undo that just a little. For our cover image. It's kind of distracting. All right. We'll pull in the whole thing here. Okay. Now we can do 2803. Apply. Okay, that looks a lot nicer. Don't have that line sitting back there. Okay, export that. Just resave it, what we had. All right, and then so the embedded image, I do 1400 by 1400. We'll export as a JPEG this time. See, 98. That should give us here, yeah, right here. Gives us about, I usually try to aim about a megabyte for that file. So export. This one we'll call cover as well. All right, and so now we'll move over to the ripping part. Got the disk skin EAC. I'm going to try to pull it from the VGMDB. Didn't find it. So let's see here. This is getting the catalog ID off the edge of the OB. All right. I'm just gonna paste this in. Let's see, I'm looking, so you can choose here. Looks like got a decent selection of artists. So put various. This is 2005 anime. Here's the number there. And I put that in the comment field, and it'll get transferred over once it gets ripped. It'll be in the song or in the individual FLAC files as a catalog ID. All right, let's get the cover here. Cover.jpg. Add that over. And then detect the gaps. Okay. Then we'll create a non-compliant. And then normally what I do is I'll change the name of that one. And then I will make the other one so that there's both styles, the non-compliant and the regular. So there's two kinds. And now go to action, copy, or test and copy, and compressed. And oh, hold on. It says track one there. That's not good. Yep. We do not want to. All right, so these tracks, we got to get those too. Let's not forget those. Copy those into here, and I've got a macro. No time. There we go. Okay, so copied that to the clipboard. And then go to get CD information from clipboard. Yes. Okay. There's the non-compliant. Okay, there's the regular one. And now, test and copy, compressed. All right, now it'll go and start copying stuff. All right, let's continue with the scanning. Do the inside of the booklet. So we'll just turn that over. Look at the booklet here. And the first thing is to do the D screen. So we've got some halftones up here around the border. Go up to that. And I'm going to click the automatic button again just to make it go through on its own. Hit OK and let that process. All right, that got cleaned up. Now we can crop it and just scanning back and forth. It looks like there's a little bit of an angle. Bring that end in. That's not too bad. Rotate it just a little bit. And bring this down just a little bit. Okay, hit apply. Go scan around there. Just make sure everything's good. Little dot. I'm going to use the bone brush here and use the bracket keys to make it just a little bigger. And then Alt key to set the source. For that guy. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now let's clean up this stuff. Some of these things we can just get quickly since we're here. Get a little bit of bleed through here. See these, there's some real subtle lines. You look right here and right here. And I just did a video that shows how to prevent this from happening. So, but I think these are faint enough that we can just use the normal levels trick and it'll get rid of that. Or, well, actually, I'm gonna flood this to even it out. So I selected the flood select tool. And then add, set the mode to add and grab this little box in there. Grab that heart. Okay. And then let's shrink this. Go to select and then shrink. Do 8 pixels. Okay, that didn't. Just added a couple areas to fix here. Just the bracket key to enlarge that circle and say add. Get that guy over there. I'm gonna keep this crease right here. I like to keep the crease because it looks more natural when you're looking at the booklet. You know, it lets you know where the page break was. So if you want to keep the reference, the rectangular marquee, and then subtract, you can just make a little outline there just so you'll know where that is later on. And okay, so we've got our selection here. Add a new layer. And then I'm going to use the color picker. Set it to 65. And get this general color. You know, it's an off-white, more kind of a gray tone. And then on this new layer, I'm going to fill that color. So now we've got a uniform look. And then what I do, so if you zoom way in, you'll see where that select was. And to do that, click the FX key, or FX box, and then do a Gaussian blur. We'll give it just a little bit of a blur. Okay. And now, so we've got, let's see here, there's an obvious patch where you can see the color differences. So we're going to apply the levels to the whole thing, just the white. I want the crease to still be there a little bit. Okay, close that. And then I'm going to get the eraser, and on the pixel layer, what we're going to do is we're going to make this a little big, and then set the hardness down. And just go down the line. And what that's going to do, it's hardness is making it erase almost like a feathering. You see here? It's just a very subtle erasing, so that on the sides, this white overlay will fade in to where the crease is. And then that way you have a natural look. And of course this is, zooming in really close. When we shrink this down to 600 dpi, you won't even see any of the changes, any of the stepping or anything like that. Okay, so if we put that back on, there you go. Just kind of a very subtle line there going down the middle of the page. Okay. That's about it for that one. Let me merge it down so that it just becomes one with the main image. Then we'll merge that. The effect, okay. And now we can look at the levels here. Okay, well, we don't want to mess with that too much because that'll get rid of the crease. And the blacks, bring in just a little bit to clean up this area up here. So some of these little things, you make sure you aren't on the levels layer there. These little guys here, just patch them up real quick. And then if you end up right on the edge, you see on, make sure you get your the little viewer lines up. This guy. When you're doing stuff like this, you see you've got it's going at an angle here. So when you're doing the clone stamp, you want to make sure that you're following that angle. So select right on the line there, and then match your line up through the middle, through when you're looking through the circle. There we go. way you'll get your color gradients will stay consistent. Okay. Now, on this black border, we probably could do let me merge that down and do a selection here. There we go. Got just a little bit of problems. And then it got broken on the page break. And we'll do add for the mode. And that should pick up the other side. And just make sure that it didn't bleed out into the rest of the page. Okay. And then do select, row, and this one, do 5 this time. Okay. And let me make sure we didn't get any like holes in the middle. Yep, all good. And select the color, black, and then add a layer, fill. Okay, so now that should be a nice solid black. No grain or anything like that, no hairs, nothing. Nice and consistent. And then, so you got a little bit of problem right here. Again, you can do the same trick just using the eraser and set your hardness low and then go through and erase that. And if I delete it, you see what it did. Just give it a nice transition look. Let's go down here to the bottom, same thing. Okay. So I think this is good. Resize it down to 600 dpi. Alright, and then we'll export as PNG, and we will call this booklet 01 to 02. So that's page 1 to page 2. Save it. Let's get the tray liner next. The next one here is the tray liner. We'll get that out of there. This can be a little tricky sometimes to get him out. There we go. And then what you want to do is just flatten these a little bit. Not all the way. The weight that we put on them will fix that. So we'll do that. And then the obi, kind of do similar thing there. All right. Here's, look at the tray liner and the obi together. All right. We'll look in here. Descreen that. There's a good area to sample. Okay. Alright, it's done with the descreening. I'll edit out the time that it takes to descreen, but it does take a couple minutes to do it. So don't think that something's wrong with your computer because it locked up for a minute or two. That's normal. Alright, let's separate these two images. Select this guy, the OB. Say new from clipboard. Okay, got that separated, and then now we can crop this one in. On these Animex ones, you gotta watch for the border here. Okay, that. That one. That looks good. Looks like we had a little bit of a fold here at the very bottom. Where you at? Hit apply. See what that gets us. Main thing is to check over here on the edges. See, there's a little bit of running over into the outside of the tray liner here. So quick way to fix that is to get the clone and then just, oops, got too much, started to pick up the red there. Go. Okay, that's clean. A little bit of run out there. All right, we can, let's see if we can clone stamp that. The hardness is probably a little too high here. We'll set that hardness for a low number. See if that'll fade it in a little better. Okay, we'll live with that. That one. This one, I mean, it's kind of the same deal. You can either crop it in or you can use the clone stamp there. Let's see. It didn't come out quite evenly. There we go. And then again, for here, you want to follow the angle. Now you got to switch the angle. We're going up. Okay. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Here's type of a crease of some kind. All right. And kind of address some of these little things in here real quick that we can see. Scanning quickly to see if there's any errors or any anomalies that show up. Okay, so this this color here, there's a lot of graininess here. You can try to smooth that out. You have a big solid color like this. I did the flood select. Looks like it did a pretty good job. Let's go inside the square there, and then we'll select and shrink it. I'm gonna do 8. Let's do 10 on this one. Okay, still didn't have any like little holes that got created since I had already covered over a lot of the imperfections. Now I'm gonna grab the color picker, change it to 65, get a nice average, and then add a blank layer and fill it in. Okay. So I don't want, I mean, you could leave that solid color like that, but it is, there was obvious noise within the color. So I don't want to keep it like that. I don't want to keep it solid. I'm going to add Gaussian blur just to kind of fill it in. And then I'm going to change the opacity just for this layer. And there's about 65%. And what that does is it still leaves the natural look of it, but it's not as bad. See, there it is, totally the way it is, like natural way, as scanned. And then that's with some smoothing on it. We're just covering it up a little bit, but we're still leaving it there so it looks a little natural. Now, you don't really want to do it down here. You can't do that trick down here because you'd have to deal with this gradient. Could do it on the white, on this white band. You can also do it out here on the edge, since there was a little bit of discoloration on there, but we'll move on for now. This looks pretty good here. I'm gonna merge that down. And then I'm gonna apply a levels thing here. I have just one that I have set up ready to go. on a preset, and you know that does a pretty good job of kind of bringing the whites back up. See, that cleared up, just increasing the levels cleared up a lot of this stuff. I go make sure I'm back on the base layer, just a little bit there. Okay. I think we're good on that one. We'll resize it, 600 DPI. Right. And this one will export PNG, and this will be called tray liner. Next one is the OB, and it should already be descreened from when we did both of them together. So now we just need to bring in cropping. One looks like it is rotated just a little bit. Bring that in. Okay. All right, got that. And I'm gonna clone stamp some of this stuff out. All right. Apply the, get rid of that, don't want to do that. Do the preset that I got. Okay. This one's usually pretty good, don't need to clean up too much. Resize it. Okay, so here when I did the new from clipboard, it changed the DPI to the normal monitor DPI, and it didn't bring in the settings that I already had. So if I go from 1200 to 600, that's a 50% decrease. So on Affinity, you can type 50, and it'll lock all that. So that was 1416. Okay, so everything should be the way that it's supposed to be. Okay, so okay, we'll export this PNG, and we will call this one OB. All right, next we'll do the disk. Okay, for the disk, I did it a couple different ways. I'll show a couple different ways of scanning it. And it's because this is a reflective disk, and so you have some options to get depending on what kind of image you're looking for. So on the disk, you got this reflective area, and that can cause some problems. So we'll try it just by itself first.
disc is still, it's coming out with a lot of rainbow colors. What we can do is there's diffusers. So I've got, start here, this is a Roscoe 3028 quarter. And so you just put that between the disc. All right, we'll scan that one, see how it goes. If the quarter diffuser doesn't work, then there's another one, a Roscoe. This is a 3027 half diffuser. This one lets through less light, but it can give you more consistent results sometimes. It just depends on the disc itself. Every disc is a little different, so you gotta try them out. So if we just open the disc as is, this is what we have. But the problem is, because it has this exposed surface on it where it's not printed, you end up with a lighting gradient created by the scanning motion of the scanner. As it moves across it and interacts with it differently, you get this bright up here, light in the middle, you get like these two polar ends. Now what you can do is you can use the diffuser sheets to try to fix this. And so here's a Roscoe 3028. This is a quarter diffuser. And you can see it cleaned it up quite a bit. It fixed the variation. The only problem is you end up with this noise, and the noise is just part of the diffuser sheet. So this one's not too bad. And then on the next level up for the diffuser is this 3027. It's a half diffuser, and it made it very consistent around the edges here, but you got even more of this noise, and you can see it just kind of lightens up the whole thing. So on these, you can try to fix this with a levels. You can try to bring it back down. That one's not too bad. Let's see how this one cleans up. That doesn't look too bad either. This is the natural one. So there is a way to where you can try to recover from this. Let me see. I don't know how to do this very well in Affinity, so I'll do it in paint.net. It's a little easier to manipulate things in paint.net. So I got the circle marquee and I'm holding the shift key, and it'll anchor it to that spot. That'll let me get a nice easy circle around there. And then I'm going to zoom out, or you can zoom in too. You just want to get these scroll bars on the side. I'll line it up with that text, and then rotate the image. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then, so what I did was I did another scan where I just tilted the disk 90 degrees. And so see, now what happens is the brightness and the darkness stay the same. But what we've done is we've just rotated the position of the disk. I'm going to open that in paint.net as well. And let me see, I'll make this down. I'll make it just a little bit smaller than the other one that I've got. Cut that out. And I'm going to add a layer, put it on top, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to zoom in and rotate this image. Okay. And then I'm going to drop the opacity on this layer. And so now you can see the two layers are over. Now, this is the part that's really difficult, is getting them to be exactly the same. And you're probably, I mean, you're going to have to like mess with it quite a bit here. Okay, that doesn't look too bad there. Okay. That looks pretty good. It's just a little bit of blurring there. That's, I guess when you zoom in, it does look a lot worse. I'm going to try deleting this. I'm going to set the hardness pretty low. And delete some of this out here as well. Okay. And then what you can do is now you've got these two images over each other. You can go through and change the levels on them. Let me see. Maybe if we merge that down, then they'll adjust together. Okay. And then this kind of stuff, this dust type stuff, this might be easier to fix in Affinity. You can't, like if you zoom in really close, you're going to see there's a lot of discolorations here. So what I'm going to do is save this as PNG. Oh, so one thing that happened here when we put in all that stuff there. Let's see. Let's open this back up. When we increased the levels really high, we ended up getting rid of all the detail here. So I'm going to take that. Okay, and then I'm going to increase the levels just a bit. Fade it in, make it look a little natural. There we go. Okay, that looks pretty good. Save that again. Okay, and then so we got this one. We'll open it in Affinity Photo. And now Affinity definitely has a much better flood select here. That's why I wanted to do it this way. Okay, yeah, just a little guy there, a couple ones here. Now when I do the shrink, I'm probably going to expect to see a lot more pop up. So we'll shrink by 8. Yeah, it's not too bad. Sometimes it's really bad and you just want to cancel the whole idea. Here and here, here. Okay. One thing I don't like about Affinity is The marquee is not as easy to work. Snap to edge there. Otherwise, in Paint.net, I would just have drawn a circle around all this. Okay, got all that. There is a masking option here that is a little bit nicer, but when you're doing multi stuff like this, it's more complicated. When you're just dealing with a circle or a square, the mask option does work. And then I'm gonna, so that'll be okay. We'll leave that for now. All right, select color, 65 by 65, and that gives me the blue. All right, and then let's drop that paint, see what happens. Okay, I'm gonna add a Gaussian blur to it, just smooth it out. And let's zoom in and see what it looks like. Yeah, it's pretty good. Not too bad. You can put the paintbrush, that blue back. And that was some of the shadow from the previous merging. And it's not the greatest look there, but there's not too bad. Let's see. Maybe, so it's too dark. Let's move that, just apply to the fill. Okay, that looks a lot better. Okay, and then here for this, just use the erase tool, not on the levels. Okay, of course we don't particularly want hairs in there. All right, I think we're splitting hairs at this point, so we're good to go. There you go. There's a disc. So in this case, so the colors are all natural. You know, you've got the holographic effect is there, but it looks pretty good. Um, Again, you can go with these. So here, if you want to rotate this and get the disc just to the circle, you can use the circle marquee and then hold shift in the middle and it'll grow it out. And then you just kind of get it where you think it'll be, where it needs to be, and then click this quick toggle, the quick mask. And then, so we got it isolated here, and I'm gonna merge this down. So now we have the whole layer here. And then I'm gonna cut that. Okay, and then new from clipboard. All right. And let's see, let's set it back to 600 without changing the actual resolution. Okay. So now we can rotate it and it'll spin nice and clean. And then we can use the grids there. All right. Now we've got a nice circle, and I guess if we wanted, whoops, I did not hit apply. Okay, apply. Okay, and so you can resize. This image was at 1200 dpi actually, so just doing it this way, we can do the 50%. Okay, so we could save this one. If we like this one, we could save this one. There was also this guy, if we wanted to save him, or we can save this one. You know, I mean, this one, it has good color, but you do get just a little bit of error there on this, on the gradient. If you're really good at mixing layers, you could probably smooth this out. And then there's, you know, this one has very little gradient change. And then there's this one that's kind of rough looking, but I mean, it is very well defined on the border there. Okay, so, and then if we want to cut this, make sure we collapse the whole thing. And now we can cut it, and then new from clipboard. And I will change that. Okay. And then we can rotate it. Apply. Okay. So we got this. You know, you could. I don't think the select will work very well here because of all the noise. See, when you zoom in, it looks okay there, but when you zoom in, you get a lot of noise here. And so the problem is that if you shrink this, it just gets kind of unbearable. So, I mean, you can go through and you can try to fix this, but I don't think you're going to get very good results. Some of these are a little more obvious of an easy fix. This discoloration here. So it's up to you on what you want to archive as. I think that just from a readability perspective, this looks really good. From a color perspective, this looks really good. it's just up to you on what you want to save. Say export. We didn't shrink it down. It's too big. PNG, and we will call this disk.